People for so long have like music is the background, right? You go into the mall and there's music. There's music playing. You're driving, you put on the radio. There's music, you know? People, I think, have taken it for granted for a really long time now, especially on like a mass level, and like an average person, not a creative. I've learned in the last few weeks, like there's not even an understanding of how the music industry works to an average person, even artists, unless you like do music. And that's crazy to me, because people are really familiar with all the other industries and kind of how they work and stuff. So I think that people are finding a lot of excitement about it because it wasn't even a thought in most people's heads to be able to do. So they're like, what? Music? How does that even work? And I'm like, well, the same exact way that a visual art piece works. It's a piece of art. You can just add a lot of other customizable things because of the technology and how the music industry is set up. So it's a really interesting bridge right now because we still rely on streaming services, and labels. And that bridge that's forming from those things to NFTs is what's gonna catapult the music industry in a brand new way through NFTs.
Good morning, Metaverse, a Web3 and NFT podcast.
Good morning, Metaverse. Thank you for tuning in to episode 5 of the GM METAVERSE podcast brought to us by Mint Songs. My name is Josh Gordon, and I'm so thankful that everybody's tuning in today to listen to another fantastic episode with an artist. We've got Domino with us today, who has dropped his own NFT project, is building community online, and has made a really interesting transition from the Web 2 to the Web 3 world, and has a lot of insights that I think emerging artists and artists looking to break into the Web3 world will find really insightful and practical. So before we dive into the conversation, I'd like to start off with our quick tip. Now, today's quick tip has to do with security. So, with the blockchain, and the beauty of it is the decentralized nature of it, but that also means we need to take more care and secure measures with our assets. So if you're collecting cryptocurrencies or NFTs, it's super important to have a hardware wallet. Now, most of us are familiar with MetaMask, a software wallet, or some people might call it a hot wallet. And it allows for really easy access to platforms like OpenSea and other decentralized applications. But there are some security downsides to it because your private keys are not off of the internet. Your computer could be hacked. You might be screen sharing and get phished. So there's definitely some downsides to it. Now, I would recommend everybody look into getting a hardware wallet like a Ledger Nano. And what that essentially allows you to do is store your private keys off of the internet. So you can connect your hardware wallet to a software wallet like a MetaMask. And when you want to make transactions on an application like OpenSea, you can, instead of signing it with your MetaMask, you would sign on your physical device that you have with you. So that you're in complete control of the transactions that you are making on the blockchain. I'll make sure to include an article on how to secure your NFTs through a hardware wallet so that you can get into the detail of that. But highly recommend you take the time, 15 minutes, watch a YouTube video, read this article I'm going to link, and you're really setting yourself up for success long term. So, the more that you dive into the Web3 space, the more assets you collect and invest in. And we want to make sure that those are all safe for the long term. Now, the last thing I want to mention before diving into our conversation is if you are finding value from this podcast, if you found it educational so far, or you haven't just enjoyed the conversations that we're having with artists and entrepreneurs and community builders, I would really appreciate a review on Apple Podcasts. It means a lot, and it really helps push our podcast to a broader audience, and we can continue bringing in more people into the Web3 world. So thank you so much for listening, and let's dive into our talk with Domino. Good morning, Metaverse. Thank you for tuning in today. We've got a great guest with us. I want to welcome Domino. Thank you for joining, man. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I've been stoked about this conversation since we got connected on Twitter. I was just listening to Bobby Hundreds talk in a Twitter space about music with some artists. Oh yeah, you're listening too? Yeah.
Yeah, so I just got out.
Yeah, same.
I gotta support Latasha every time.
Yep. We had Latasha on the podcast last week.
Nice. And I gotta check it out.
Please do. Yeah, it was a good conversation. And so I was getting the music, NFT, Web3 juices flowing. So I think since you were listening too, I guess we're both ready to go.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'd like you to start off by giving us a background into your career and how you got into crypto, how you dove into NFTs, and from there we'll kind of dive into your project.
Cool. Well, I have been in the creative and performing arts since I was very, very young. I was a professional card magician by 12. Yep. And that was my entire life until I was like 20 or 19. And then at the same time, I filled a poetry book in third grade. I was drawing in pretty well at the same time. And yeah, my whole life was surrounded by these creative endeavors. And I was performing, never ending with close-up magic. And then in high school, I was a part of this program called Peer Helping. It's thrown by an amazing teacher named Valerie Erb. I owe my life to her. She's an angel. And the class focused on teaching students how to help students through counseling techniques, different communication techniques, how to bring a situation down and calm, so many things. And so I got in that and found community there and family and started doing public speaking at assemblies for the whole school, where students would open up about their life and then kind of give thoughts and feedback from there. And so I, as a performer, found a lot of comfort in speaking publicly. So that I was talking at every assembly. I was talking to students and teachers while I was in school. And so I would end my public speakings with poetry pieces. And that's where I found the most attention in terms of connection, genuine connection and reciprocation. Because a lot of the time you don't want to listen to, super deep stuff in high school all day, So that was a moment where I saw heads pick up and people of all different cliques, because we're in high school, really connecting and giving into it. And then I had my senior year, I had a freshman come up to me and he was like, "Yo, I would love to listen to this to music. Can you record this over an instrumental or something?" And I had never done that. I had taken drum lessons and bass lessons as a kid. My brother and my dad are guitarists, but I never even thought of that. And so, it triggered everything that we're here for now. I remember that moment so plain as day. But yeah, from that moment on, I was really worn out from performing magic every day of my life for many, many, many years already, even though I was only 18 or 19. And I threw that same exact obsession and that same exact passion into music and into rap specifically, because the poetry I was doing was already rhythmic. It was already rap. I was listening to a lot of Atmosphere, a lot of early Kanye and so much. And so it just made sense. So for the next few years after that, I was just honing in because I was trash. I was so trash because of my spoken word background gave me the writing skills, gave me the bars, gave me the performance aspect and cadence and all of that, but it didn't give me how to be on beat, So I had to unlearn and make a lot of not very good music for many, many years as like a beginner, even though I'm like pushing 20. And yeah, that happened for years. And then I moved out here to LA, where I've been since for the last 6 or 7 years, to pursue it at a very early stage in my ability. And at the same time, I was editing video for YouTubers. All of my friends were professional dancers, so I was just intermixed in this place in LA that was like very special at the time. It was a lot of creatives, a lot of videographers, and a lot of the top dancers in the entire industry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I saw it all, and I saw what real music was. And I started being obsessed with performing, and I took all my magic experience and threw it completely into the performance of music. We'll fast forward some years. And I dropped an album called Gradients in 2017. And those songs pick up a lot, the most any of my music ever has. It was like 300,000 plays on Spotify in like a week or something, which was just completely unheard of for me, because before that it was all SoundCloud only, like, which was a really fun era. And yeah, so then I am close with all these videographers from doing editing work. So I have them start shooting my music videos on Red cameras and with 15 dancers and car rentals and all these things that all of my friends just had, that we could like use and throw into these experiences. And because of magic, I knew the importance of a concept. I knew the importance of storytelling and engaging an audience to an ending. So I really used that for the album. And that's why I really learned how to do a show, do videos, and do an album that all correlate and create a world. That was my jam. Like, if you didn't like the music, you would appreciate how full out this whole experience was, and see the connection to like my personal life. So I was really big on just being a human. And that continued. And then I dropped another album that didn't have the same effect as Gradients did. But I was performing like crazy. I was performing 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes for months at a time, and with a band, without a band, with a band and dancers, without anything, completely a cappella, like anything you could think of. I was just training.
That's a grind.
That is a grind. Yeah. Yeah. And at the same time, we started throwing our own shows. So now I'm throwing shows, bringing an entire audience of artists and dancers, with 100 to 200 people in a yard, creating these crazy experiences with my friends. And that really taught me community and how to bridge the gaps a bit. Fast forward more time, it's the pandemic. I have to shift completely into Twitch streaming, because we can't do live shows anymore. And that was my means of making money besides selling merch to my core fans. So I shifted to Twitch completely because my brother was already doing it. And that's where the bridge started really happening for the digital aspect for me. I saw how to build community online. I saw how to create music live with an audience and have more connection for them. And then I saw at the same time NFTs, because I had been following Ferocious for years. We had like exchanged a lot of conversation trying to like get him to do song covers and stuff. And right before it was about to happen, he blows up with NFTs and starts selling. Like, I think the first piece was like $5,000, but it was like crazy. No one was doing it like that. And then go a couple months and multi-million-dollar sales. Like, I was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. And this is special because I was already following so many artists from Twitter for years. And so in March of this year, we're at the NFT world now. I mint my first piece finally after doing all this Twitch stuff. I was like, okay, it's time. So I started with a self-portrait drawing of myself, with like a teardrop and music and a whole story behind it. And it sells for an ETH in like 3 or 4 days. And
did you have any like promotion behind that, or was that just really organic through just you posting it,
probably
tweeting about it, and then someone picked it up?
Yeah, it was super organic. And I had already been lurking the internet for my whole life. So I knew how to like talk to people. I knew how to like go into DMs without it being weird. And I was like ruthless at the time, because of music, because that was the only way to get your music spread. There wasn't any other option besides signing. And that wasn't an option. They didn't want my music. So there was no other choice but to like talk to people and hound people almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was your first kind of foray into NFTs, was that first drop?
Absolutely. Yeah. Besides like watching it for a year or two because of Ferocious. I just was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
That's
interesting. It sounds like you really had this experience your whole life as an educator and an entertainer and being really internet native, living within like a content culture of LA, and all that kind of culminated into, eventually leading to NFTs, which seems to be the perfect mix of all those skill sets.
This, like, as soon as I saw it and sold one, I was like, to everyone, I was like, yo, this is finally it. This is finally it. Like, it's not even a platform, but it's finally the platform for everything. And I saw it, but no one else really did. And yeah, so then those next 2 months was me doing Twitch streams for the NFT space. I saw the need. No one was doing it. George Nowak had a design Twitch, but it wasn't like NFT specific. And so I saw that hole and I took that and I ran with it. So I was doing museum showcases where I had 500 artists submit instantly, just as a highlight reel, essentially, because I'd already sold like 5 to 10 pieces at this point in a very short amount of time. And yeah, I started interviewing huge collectors, like the #1 collectors in the space, like top 5. Like I interviewed them first. We would do artist panels and we would do like panels for different demographics and all this educational stuff that I was already doing, now focused on NFTs and like all these questions that people had, because it was completely art focused and visual focused. So that's why I like was drawing only. I wasn't even like, let me put my songs out. I was like, I need to like build in this space because this is where it is. It's completely visual. It's mostly 3D. And what I was doing was like charcoal and pen drawings. But thank God the NFT space wants uniqueness. Instead of like every other industry where you have to like sound or look or be the same as someone else. Like finally.
Definitely helps if you don't fit a mold in this space.
Yeah. It's pretty wild, man. Thank God. Like, yeah, thank God. And I hope that continues more. Like, we can talk about that more, but, I was doing all the Twitch streams and that was huge for me and my momentum and building and connecting with other artists. And I came up with a certain group of artists at the same time. And over the next few months, they became huge. So now I'm in this position where I'm a community member, I'm an artist doing all these different collections. And also all my really close homies in the space are like running it. So I saw all those alignments and was like, okay. And then a lot of life happened really, really quickly from doing 18-hour days every day for months, as we do in this space. And I hit a wall and had to like go back inward, really reground myself, really get in with my family and my relationship and, really hone in again, because I lost all my practices and all my morning routines and all of that because I was just going hard. And that month was vital. That month was super vital for me. It was the whole factor of the success of today. Because I saw that I couldn't keep doing what I was doing, like just dropping and dropping and dropping and kind of like rushing it almost. I saw that.
There's like a Web3 is 24/7, 365, and it's really hard to take a step back when Twitter's going all day long. And I mean, I find myself, if I take, a day off, I've actually kind of been off Twitter the last 3 days. I just need, it's kind of similar. Like I need a little bit of a break. And so much changes in such a short amount of time. It's hard to keep up from like an education standpoint. I mean, the prices change. So it's hard to take a step back from like the NFT world. I think that's a challenge for creators right now. There's so many people rushing, so much attention and energy coming in here right now. If you like take step back, it's almost, you feel like you might lose your spot, lose your edge. And I can imagine it's very challenging.
Yeah. And like, it seems to be getting worse now, even after being, in it for a while. It's crazy. But that's so accurate. And still to this day, it's a problem because there's opportunity at every second. Like, so it's like, why would I not do this? But then we got to live.
So we'll jump to, I think, where you're about to get to, which is like your latest project you dropped. We'll jump there in a second. I want to hold off and ask you a few questions before we dive into that. Okay. But I gotta ask, you ever put like you said you used to put instrumentals over some of your poetry. Like that was when you almost first started getting into the music. You ever do that? Just having a conversation with someone? I have like a good friend of mine. We'll throw on instrumentals, what Explosions in the Sky, the Friday Night Lights instrumental, if you're familiar. You throw that on and you can have any conversation. It's just a super deep talk with the homies. So if you haven't tried that, you got to try that.
Yeah, I will for sure.
But
it's a great album for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I did have a question on what makes you think like music will lead to NFT adoption? Like what about music do you think is really resonating with people who are new to NFTs?
People for so long have, like, music is the background, right? You go into the mall and there's music. There's music playing. You're driving, you put on the radio, there's music, people, I think, have taken it for granted for a really long time now. Especially on like a mass level. And like an average person, not a creative. I've learned in the last few weeks, like there's not even an understanding of how the music industry works to an average person, even artists, unless you like do music. And that's crazy to me. Because people are really familiar with all the other industries and kind of how they work and stuff. So I think that people are finding a lot of excitement about it because it wasn't even a thought in most people's heads to be able to do. So they're like, what? Music? How does that even work? And I'm like, well, the same exact way that a visual art piece works. It's a piece of art. You can just add a lot of other customizable things because of the technology and how the music industry is set up. So it's a really interesting bridge right now because we still rely on streaming services and labels. And that bridge that's forming from those things to NFTs is what's gonna catapult the music industry in a brand new way through NFTs. It's a pretty like crazy alignment with it right now. Yeah. And it's so new, which makes no sense because like it's not. But the masses are just now, like in the last few weeks, just now coming in, which is crazy.
Yeah. I love what you say about it just being in the background of everything. We spoke to Blockchain Brett on the pod a few weeks back, and he said like music is the most consumable form of art. And, I would say the average person really isn't appreciating like physical art pieces on a day to day, but all of a sudden we're buying like one of one art, like we're buying these, digital works because they're beautiful, they're interesting. There's a movement behind it, but we consume music on a daily. So I really agree with you there, but it being in the background, it's part of our life. So you also mentioned that people don't really know how the music industry works. And Bobby was kind of just alluding to this on the Twitter space before I popped off. But could you share with us from your experience and like background and maybe educate some of our listeners, why do labels suck?
That's a great question. So I've been independent my whole life. You know what I'm saying? Like there wasn't really even much of a thought of that. And then I watched Mac Miller I was the same age as him, you know? So I watched him through high school do it independently, you know, like really do it independently. And that was huge. And then we saw Chance do it independently, and that was huge. And the reason why those were such huge moments was because the music industry, since its birth, labels. They are like, how else do you get on stages? How else do you get on a TV show feature? How else do you get your music in movies? How else? Literally, like, there was no other option, you know? And they suck because they have made the music artist a commodity to funnel money. So they take ownership, they take publishing rights, they take all the background stuff that you own when you write and create a song. And they take that and say, okay, we have all this now. Now here's a bunch of money, but you got to pay us back this money later. But we're going to get you in front of a lot of people. So you see how easy that would be to like completely mess up. You know, you're given a lump sum of money instantly that most people hadn't seen in their entire life and worked so hard for. And then there's an imagery around specifically hip hop music that needs to be something and look a certain way and be luxurious and worth a lot. So yeah, they steal away your ownership, give you money for it, but then you have to pay back that money. And that's why artists are stuck in shows for years and years and years, and stuck selling merch for years and years and years, and making albums for the label at this point as a loan. Then they're stuck. They're literally stuck. And then they can't get out of a deal because they signed a deal for too many years, or they signed it to where they have to work until it's paid off, which is crazy. So yeah, the benefit is they have a lot of connections and can get you in front of a lot of things. Yeah. But there's deals that are awesome. Like a publishing deal would be great. They don't own any of your things. They have no creative rights. But if they get you onto something, they just take a percentage. And that's dope. That makes sense. You know, that's reasonable. But yeah, the rest is like wild.
Yeah, it sounds like from everything I'm learning more about the music industry too, just, you know, diving into the space, and they definitely can be gatekeepers in a lot of aspects. Mm-hmm. And now we can give artists the power to hold these keys, you know, their NFTs that they can release, and give those keys to the community member to, you know, come on in. And mm-hmm. It is a really interesting flip of the script. So appreciate that breakdown. Hopefully,
yeah, for sure.
Hopefully some people learn a thing or two and might have to Google, you know, publishing rights and whatnot, but that was a good overview. So, all right. Now, you know, money talks. And you know, one of the reasons why I feel like I'm talking to you today, and I saw your tweet that went viral. You had 120K in NFT album sales in the last 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks at this point. Can you, congratulations, first of all. And I wish I had a soundboard. We'd have the down, down. Yeah. I might have to drop one in. I'm glad we were both hearing the same sound. So, can you walk us through like your latest project and how you found success?
Yeah. Yes. 1,000%. So like the whole life story I gave at the beginning of this was the explanation of why it was successful. All of those things added up to me being in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. So after I took that big ass break, which was only a month, but in NFT land, that's like a year.
NFT land moves in dog years for sure. Yeah.
So I had a ton of songs from the pandemic that I threw into an album. And then came up with this whole concept. And the concept was to explore what the future of success would be like for me. So the album, it's a trilogy. Okay. There will be 3. We're on volume 1. It explores in 3 parts the future that I envision. And the reference point for that in the first album is winning like a Grammy award, and what that would do. And it's going to continue to explore that quite existentially as the albums progress. But that was the whole point and concept, was how do I manifest my own success through exploring it and seeing what it would be like, what decisions I would make and how I would feel about it. So I think that that's like super important, because like there was a lot of energy in envisioning what's happening right now, you know? So yeah, then I came up with the concept that for 4 weeks, I would do a drop every single week leading up to the album drop. So we did a short film and 7 different art pieces that dropped every single week leading up to the album drop. I didn't say it was an album. I just created a lot of mystery through trailers and a lot of interaction. I had phone numbers in the trailers that they could call and hear a future version of me doing a journal entry and a bunch of other things. So yeah, I built a lot of hype and momentum. And every single week sold out within 24 hours, every short film, every art piece of a different art medium. And they all were telling a cohesive story, which was the album story. And then week 4 comes around and we drop the album with a custom contract on a custom mint page. And we set the burn date. Originally it was November 11th. Now it's been pushed to December 11th. So it'll be available until then. And we did something really special, which was through that custom contract, we were able to, in 1 mint fee and 1 gas fee, you get all 7 different NFTs, each with a different song from the album, combined with a different artwork from a different artist in the space. So that was like a new way to distribute music through NFTs that had never been done before, like literally. And my coder Bitcoinsky came.
And that uniqueness is that you were distributing 7 NFTs within 1 transaction, whereas normally it's 1 for 1.
Yes, but also a part of it was that they were different ones.
Yeah.
Instead of like buying 7 of the same thing.
Yeah.
No one had done that with music. Like PFP projects, you were able to like add to cart and buy a bunch, and you would obviously receive different ones. But no one had done it with music in something that was already pre-revealed. So there's a lot of like things, but yeah, essentially it was taking what Bitcoinsky had done to PFP projects and applying it in a brand new way with music, which was a historical moment that added to all of this. And then on top of that, all the artists I worked with are very prominent in the NFT space. So we dropped, and within 24 hours, we had 80K in sales.
Massive.
Insanity. Yes. Yeah. That was like 20 million in Spotify stream revenue.
I don't even know how you went. Did you even go to sleep in those 24 hours?
No, I didn't. I already hadn't slept for a month because we were doing drops every week. And I was finishing the album. So I already hadn't slept. And now since that moment, I still haven't slept. So we're still going. Yeah. So the first day we did 80K in sales, just under, and we had 2 million interactions on my Twitter and I had 2,000 new followers. This was crazy. Like, I had the same follower count from like 2010 to like 3 months before this, so it was crazy. It was huge. And I was having like people I like really looked up to reaching out to me with like for help first day. And I'm like, this is wild. And it instantly shifted, kind of like other people seeing me, how I knew my level was at the whole time. And it really made a huge shift. And it also shifted the entire music space in the NFT land, from that moment on, it's been like a very hot topic. And people, I'm not like taking full, like, y'all are talking about this because me. Like Latasha was doing stuff, BT was doing stuff, Blau's been doing shit since 2017, like Nifty Sat. So many people have been doing it, but there was a significant moment where we found this success and then it did something. It did something else, like those numbers were like crazy, and they remain crazy. So, yep. And then we announced a bunch of airdrops that would be coming for all the holders. So there's like a ton of them that I'm still going to be doing probably through January. We haven't sent the first one out, but we took the snapshot already. The first one's a comic book cover version of the album by Marvel and DC comic book artists. So I was pretty stoked on that. That's like some childhood success. So we started adding value for the holders from there. And that, that continued the sales and everything.
I have so many questions. I feel like I got to stop you here, or else we're going to get so deep.
No, I mean, that's essentially
like 7 questions deep here.
Yeah.
So like, I think it's super interesting that you did a custom contract, and I spent time looking at your website, and you know what, like we can even share that on screen while we talk about it.
For sure.
Let's see if I can do this.
Full production.
So
here we are.
Here's the site. I should connect my wallet and pull it up, but using the custom contract and minting through your own site is something I haven't seen done with many music artists. I mean, I'm actually not sure. I'm not sure who else has done that through their own site versus, dropping through OpenSea or Catalog or Mint Songs. Totally. What pushed you to go this route, and how challenging was that? Like, is there any advice you can pass on to other artists looking to potentially follow suit and create a custom contract? And also, if you could describe, like, what's the value of that custom contract versus utilizing a platform? I think there's values both ways, but I'd be interested to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah. So when I say that the stars all aligned for this entire project the whole time, I really, really mean that. There was something going on in the cosmos that allowed all of this to line up and be what it is. So I was supposed to drop this whole project, even the short films and the other art pieces and the album, through a different platform that we had an agreement for like weeks. And that fell through a few days before the album dropped, or before the first short film drop. And so that shifted my whole thing to where I was like, okay, I have to drop on OpenSea. That's it. Like, I'm not going to go to anywhere else, because everywhere else is like taking so many fees, And then the only other one I was looking at was Zora. And in retrospect, I kind of wish I went with Zora, just out of like supporting them and what they're doing, because it's really special. But I went with OpenSea out of my familiarity with it. I'd already dropped a ton on there. I had a bunch of collections. Like, it just made sense. So I ran with that. And then the day before the album drops, not even the day, 8 hours before the album is supposed to come out, I was going to drop it on OpenSea. It was going to be single songs. You'd have to buy all 7 for the airdrops, which was like $1,000 in gas fees, like minimum. So yeah, that's just what we had to do. And I was like, I don't know, we're just going to do it. And then I get a phone call at 2 a.m. from Bitcoinski saying, I will make you a custom contract and a custom mint page if you just push it 24 hours. And I was like, okay. So we pushed it 24 hours, and him and his partner, Calvin, created a brand new smart contract, made the mint site exactly as what you see now. And it was done within a day.
Wow.
It was the ultimate blessing. And
were they connections with you? Like, are those people you had been in communication with, or was that like an out of the dark, like, savior?
A little bit of both. I had known Bitcoinski, but never talked to him, but knew him because he had coded and done the development for like so many huge projects that my friends made, like Habibis, Woodies, all these different PFP projects that were sold out in minutes, pushing like millions. So as soon as I saw the DM from him, I was like, oh my God. Because I didn't even think of a contract. I didn't think of a custom. I didn't think of a mint page. That wasn't my idea. That was Bitcoinski. He called me hype and was like, I have the idea, and this is going to be a new way to distribute music. And I said, I'm here for it. Like, let's go. And we did it. We ran with it. It cost $2,000 to run a custom smart contract and deploy it. So that was an upfront fee that I wasn't expecting, but thank God we had done all the other sales of the short film. So I took some of the money made from that and just put it in. But I want to say that because that's important for people to know about this.
There's gas fees, related to getting that contract deployed and whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's a whole thing. But we ran with it. Yeah. And I think The benefits of it are it turns you into your own platform. You don't have to go onto OpenSea to buy the album yet until we burn the unsold. And it's customizable for you. Like it's all my branding. It fits exactly what you want. We could have done anything with it. And we are going to add some features this week that I think are going to be another level up of game changing, but we'll see how it goes. So yeah, it gives you the ability to keep changing things, keep doing things differently. Now, when we do the airdrops, you can redeem them through that mint page as well. And they're sent directly to you. The downfalls of it are you need a coder, you need a developer, and you need the money to deploy the contract, which that just came to me by the grace of God. You know, that wasn't me searching. That wasn't me finding. But there's a ton of coders and developers that you can just lurk for on Twitter and talk to them. And because we did come up with a percentage split, like it wasn't like he just did it. There's a whole plan behind it and an agreement. And that's something that people are very open with right now.
Probably built into the contract too, right? All handled via smart contracts, or did those percentages happen kind of secondary, just between these?
Yeah. So since we were sending out 7 different NFTs, he couldn't make it automatic through the contract because you can like code that to just send splits every X amount of time, which is amazing to me. But we couldn't do that because he couldn't link those wallets to each specific piece. It's just easy. It would have been like another 2 days of coding. So yeah, I do the splits manually, but we could have. We just didn't have the time.
Sure. Would you recommend that if you're a brand new NFT artist, I mean, you had months of experience in this space, had sold many pieces, and then you eventually used your own custom contract, right? Now, if you're brand new and I'm sure we have some brand new NFT artists and musicians looking to transition to Web3 listening, would you advise that they even entertain the idea of custom contract, or stick to, some of the platforms that are here to really help onboard and make it easy for musicians to come into the space, and then, consider it as an option down the road?
The second one, 1,000%. It like me using a smart contract was appropriate because I had 3 weeks of buildup. I had a whole plan. Like I had 7 producers from my personal life produce each song. I had 7 different artists that were in the NFT space do each song. Like it was a whole community event. And so I think if you're going to do a smart contract, it needs to be like a custom thing. It needs to be like your masterpiece. It needs to be that. Because anything else, it's not worth it. It's like unnecessary when you could just go through a platform that's taking small percentage like Zora or OpenSea. Zora, I don't even think takes a percentage, which is crazy. So yeah, I would say,
and I got to plug Mint Songs here. It's even free to mint NFT on, Mint Songs. So I'd say there's like definitely different platforms offer different benefits. And it seems like it's finding the right one that fits you and your brand at the moment.
Totally. 1,000%.
Yeah. But it's good to hear that is a transition that an artist can eventually make. I think that the music platforms, the marketplaces are providing like a functionality to onboard, and, having the ability still to have your own custom contract is awesome to have taken even like another section of control. It also requires another level of effort. So, there's always gonna be pros and cons. You mentioned airdrops, we're talking about custom contracts. Have there been other like tools or functionality that you've been really wishing you had at your disposal for connection with the fans? And like airdrops is a really interesting one. I mean, that's something that if you want to airdrop to your fans, that's technical, right? To be able to gather that wallet information, have that handled automatically. Have there been other Web3 features that you've been wishing you had at your disposal throughout like the handling of your own project?
Yes. Something that we talk a lot about in music is like the royalty splits and splitting with holders. And that's something I announced for my holders that we're still figuring out the logistics of. Because it's now taking a Web2 service like DistroKid as a distributor, and having to get the money from there into ETH to wallets. So that's something that I think will be more streamlined. Blau's group called Royal is doing that for their own platform. So they like took that concept and put it into their own kind of world. But it still interacts with Spotify and Apple Music, which is very, very interesting. And I think things like that are going to keep appearing because, like, at this point, the blockchain tech is open, and it's just like open to our imagination and creative ability with code and what we can think of to combine. So I think what we did with the project is barely scratching the surface. And I think what anyone is doing right now is scratching the surface. I don't think anyone, except for BT did a piece that is 24 hours, ever changing, never the same, goes 365 days a week. It's visual and audio, and all of it is coded.
Are you talking about the art blocks?
He dropped it on his own platform, I think.
Okay, so I'm not familiar with this one. There's a similar project on art blocks that the name's escaping me at this moment.
For sure, it might be the same thing. It might have been on art blocks, but
cool.
I still haven't seen or heard anything like that. Like that is different. He was talking about things that we could do with binaural that is playing all the time that could like help our physical bodies by reading our bodies like through an Apple Watch, and then doing binaural audio to send like to lower our heart rate or whatever. And that was like
music responsive to biometrics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Crazy. Like what?
I'd be interested to, stay in touch on how you handle the royalty splits. I think that is a very interesting 100%. Thing to a lot of people are going to want to handle. Royalty splits are a huge thing in the music world. I know Verite, she's doing kind of royalty splits with some of her NFT drops. I'm not sure how that works.
Totally.
And
she's great. I got to meet her in New York when I met with Nathan from Royal, and she's been doing things that like I probably don't even know about that are like crazy. Yeah. So it's crazy how endless it is and how like people have been doing things for so long and like you don't even hear about it.
Yeah. I think we need some kind of service that is a DistroKid, but for but native to Web3, and that will basically give you your royalties via ETH and a contract that you can connect to handle those splits. But
totally.
Yeah. So interesting that you mentioned it. Definitely sounds like a feature that someone's going to be working on sooner than later. So we threw it out into the world.
For sure.
Okay. So, there's a ton of other stuff I want to cover, but let's dive into something I want to dive into before we get to one of the last sections of the pod is around fans and how you have found like your engagement with fans, how it differs from your Web2 experience. I mean, you went through a very long like Web2 career of like fan and community building, and then seem to have developed a very passionate Web3 one. And could you talk through here the difference in interactions you've had with Web2 fans and community versus Web3?
Yes. The Web2 is mostly not artists. That's the deciding factor to me. It was much harder to get people to not only enjoy the music, but listen to the music. It would be like reaching out to someone, hoping they like hip hop, hoping they like this very specific style of hip hop, and then hoping that they would not only listen to the music all the time, but also like buy my merch. That's a lot. That's a lot of shots in the dark every day, over and over and over. And in this world, it's 95% artists of different types that are also trying to get their work out. It's like the SoundCloud era all over again. So then you can reach out to them, and there's a huge, huge high percentage that they're not only going to listen to it, but also give you feedback, show you love, or support it. And I think that it's like a huge detrimental aspect is that everyone in Web3 right now is kind of pushing for the same thing. And there's this huge support because of that. Whereas Web2 world, if you're not promoting straight to artists, it's like pulling teeth. Like it's potentially worse than that. Like they're like, why are you messaging me?
In Web3, a rising tide lifts all ships. Like all these artists are all down to support other artists because we can all win together.
Totally. 1,000%. 1,000%.
So, that difference you just described, could you talk to how a fan can get involved in a Web3 community or in, with an artist, and even yourself, if that makes it easy to talk through?
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest factor of this is money. Because right now, especially priced in ETH, like for the average person, they can't just like buy a $200 to $500 piece, no matter how many benefits it comes with. So I think that they can interact with the artists. They can do everything they've already been doing. They can stream. You can get physical merch if they had it. And then you can just do all the research you possibly can on the same tip as an artist. Because this is the shift. This is the shift for all creative arts and just it will apply to a lot of things that I don't think people even are thinking of at all in the real world outside of art. So yeah, I would say to any fan to just like dive into the world and experience it, because it's a way to experience art and the music that you always have in a very new and direct way. And that's like unheard of, like think of when Michael Jackson was coming out with Thriller. Like think of him doing a Twitch stream in the studio that like only his holders could watch. That's crazy, and like we have the opportunity to do that right now. We just don't know who is working on the Thriller and which one's going to be their Thriller, which is fun and exciting. And it allows you to bet on artists in a way that you also benefit from. Because before, you're streaming for free, you're not having any ownership over it, and it's like barely supporting the artist. So like, what's it really doing, So yeah, that's what I would say for sure.
Sweet. No, appreciate that breakdown. You definitely have an opportunity right now as a fan to get closer to the artists you love and enjoy and appreciate the music from than ever before. So we can get a lot more than our end of year Spotify recap to make us feel like we're a fan. And we can kind of jump in and talk with like-minded people on Discord, on Twitter every day. So yeah, good description. So, all right. A couple more questions here. I want to kind of talk about where you're going, what you're building, and like next, the roadmap for you coming up. I mean, it sounds like you're still wrapping up like the snapshot and your project. So that might be it. But, I know you mentioned in your album project, like one of the pieces has to do with you like receiving a Grammy. And you mentioned, that's embodies like something you're manifesting and whatnot. So I'd like to know, Domino, what are you manifesting next?
Yeah. Well, like I said, the Presessence is a trilogy. Volume 1 is driving in the limo to the Grammys, reflecting on my life, and then getting this Grammy. That's the whole project. So 6 of the songs are reflective, right? Then the last 2 are future thinking. And volume 2 explores a whole new section. And volume 3 really concludes it. So there is no stopping. Presessence to me is a 2 to 3 year event. Maybe less. maybe 1 to 2 years. But it doesn't just include this NFT drop. Like, it was already 3 or 4 weeks of drops leading up to the album. Now it's the album, right? We dropped it completely, and the art continues to envelop these songs. And now I've been doing a bunch of performances to further enhance this. We're doing the airdrops, which continue to explore the concept through different artists' visions. Like that comic book cover that we're airdropping in the next few days is me holding a Grammy in this future world. And beyond the airdrops, which I'm really excited about, we have a ton of other NFT drops that will be auctions and buy now, one-on-ones and editions that further explore this first volume. So it doesn't stop. Once we burn the unsold on December 11th, it is not stopping. We are doing multiple music videos that'll also be dropped as NFTs. We're doing song remixes that'll be dropped. And this is like super alpha, but one of the next things I'm dropping is 7 different NFTs, all films that are dance NFTs, each with a different dancer that's extremely prominent in the dance industry. I think this will bring dance into NFTs in a huge way, very big way. And I feel very blessed about that, because it's a lot of people that are just very big in their industry coming to explore this album with me. And that is very exciting to me. And then beyond that, a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah. Wow. Dance party in the metaverse soon, it sounds like. So
yeah,
you let us know when, and we'll bring our digital avatars there to rock out with you for those of us who can't dance in the physical world.
Yeah, same. Literally same.
That's really awesome. I'm glad to hear that you're thinking long-term about this. If you're an artist listening right now, I mean, that's a huge takeaway. Think long-term. Like, think about how you can grow this community and this project for not just one release to have success. It's the people who are who want to build a fan base and really collaborate and grow with them over time. So commend you for that.
Thank you, man.
All right. So at last section of the pod, 1, 2, Web3. I got a couple questions for you. The first one, can you share with us a influential creator or entrepreneur, artist, musician that really inspires you?
Just in any world?
In any world.
Okay, I gotta give it to, there's so many people. That is so tough. Like, unbelievably tough. 1,000 people come to my head. But one of the people that really influenced me early on in my music career to see and understand the full picture and how you can combine all the mediums you do into one project was Childish Gambino. He did an album that came out with a short film and a script that you read while you listened to the music, and a whole world. And that was just huge for me to experience as an audience member and see, like, okay, like, this is what I want to do and how I want to do it. So yeah. Yeah.
Totally. It's been super impressive to watch him also like navigate different mediums of art over the years. So
yeah,
everything I see from him, I love.
Yeah. So, the blueprint for sure.
Yeah. Favorite NFT?
What?
You got to name one.
A single or a project?
Yeah. I'll give you freedom to decide that.
Okay. Oh God. My friends are going to be pissed. Favorite NFT. Okay, I got to give it to Missing Watcher. It's a project. My favorite NFT from it. It's called Death by Robots. It's a game that started as a Discord game for a year. And then he started dropping film NFTs that are like 3D from the world that you would have to like do puzzles for to unlock the next one. And it is currently one of the most interactive, and it puts you into its world more than anything I've experienced, literally ever. So I would say that for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one, so I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, check them out.
And then last question: in 5 years, what's the craziest thing we'll be doing in the metaverse or in the music NFT space that people aren't even thinking about yet?
This might sound dumb, but it's the first thing I think of. I think going on dating. Yeah. I think that might sound so like obvious, but I haven't seen a VR dating app yet. I haven't seen any metaverse dating thing.
You're thinking like avatared up, not even like real face.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. But other than that, I don't know. I think Ready Player One is a little bit closer than we think.
Yeah. I love that movie. And definitely, if you're listening to this, watch Ready Player One. If you love NFTs, you're going to love the movie. And if you're new to NFTs, I think that will show you a little bit of a vision about like some of the interactions that, these can have in the virtual world. But totally. Yeah. Dating would be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, lastly, can you let us know, like, where can people follow you, find you, like interact with you?
Yeah. It's Domino's Music on Twitter, Instagram, dominosmusic.eth. You know what I'm saying? If you're trying to send me some Bored Apes or something, hit me up. Other than that, you can check out the album on all platforms. Just search up Presessence. And you can see the NFTs at mint.dominosmusic.com. That's it. All
right. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for listening to the Good Morning Metaverse podcast. Thank you, Domino, for this great discussion. I think we learned a lot today, and I'm excited to see your career grow in the Web3 world. So with that, we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. Peace.
Good Morning Metaverse, a Web3 and NFT podcast.